In his first interview since being forced out as West Virginia athletic director, Shane Lyons had some very critical yet interesting things to say about both Gordon Gee and West Virginia's Board of Governors. Let's go. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads webcast. So, as we await news with the West Virginia athletic director and anything that may happen within the football program as well, we had another bombshell dropped on us this morning due to an interview that Shane Lyons did with Metro News' Hoppy Kercheval over on his program Talkline. But here's an article from the site talking about the interview. I'll pull it up for you guys to read along with me. Really some extremely interesting comments from Shane Lyons, both in regards to Neil Brown, what he would have done if he was still here, and how shocked he was of his firing, felt like he was a scapegoat, among other things, and had some really negative things to say in regards to Gordon Gee, who he mentioned by name, Rob Alsop, and then Dave Alvarez and the West Virginia Board of Governors. Mentioned all of those by name, felt like they were just as complicit in the contract extension and other decisions as he was. And he said he felt really shocked and, didn't like the way that they handled things. So it was really, an enlightening interview for Shane Lyons. And I think it really raises some questions into some things that are going on at West Virginia within the athletic department right now and within the university potentially. Let's check out some of Shane Lyons' comments here. In his first public interview since being dismissed as West Virginia's athletic director 2 weeks ago to the day, Shane Lyons went into detail into how that decision came about. He says it was a complete surprise, Lyons said on Metro News Talkline with Hoppy Kercheval. 2 weeks earlier, I got a text message from Gordon Gee saying, I know there's a lot of pressure on us and I wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with anybody else rather than you. So there you go. That's what Gordon Gee said to Shane Lyons just 2 weeks prior to his firing there. So, but following that comment, when he said that about, the text message exchange between him and Gordon Gee, in 2 weeks, Hoppy Kercheval replied with something along the lines of, what changed in 2 weeks? And Shane Lyons' reply was basically, I don't know, you tell me. So, Shane Lyons felt like that was kind of a vote of confidence from Gordon Gee, and then 2 weeks later fires him surprisingly even to Shane Lyons. Some interesting stuff there. Shane Lyons then goes on to say, it boils down to the football situation. A lot of heat was surrounding our football program at that time. I look at it like I'm the scapegoat. And then Hoppy Kercheval asked him about the contract extension, which a lot of people feel like played a part in him being fired, is that contract extension that he gave Neil Brown. And Lyons said the culture was right and recruiting was heading in the right direction. Lyons said his name had come up for a couple of jobs at Auburn and at South Carolina. As an athletic director, you start juggling this to say, what if he wins the next year? Well, if he wins the next year, his buyout was $1.5 to $2 million, which is not much in our business. So my thinking was we need to increase his buyout if he ends up leaving to be close to $5 million, which we ended up doing. Much of that extension decision fell on Lyons, but the former West Virginia athletic director said it was a collaborative decision that also took into consideration the thoughts of Gee, current interim director of athletics Rob Alsop, and the chair of WVU's Board of Governors, David Alvarez. So this is what I'm talking about when Shane Lyons actually, called these guys out by name in this interview. Here's the exact quote. He says, President Gee was involved and Rob Alsop was involved, and ultimately the chairman of the board, Dave Alvarez, signed off, Lyons said. It's not done in a vacuum that Shane Lyons did this deal on his own. These type of contracts with high-profile football coach are done in collaboration with other individuals. All right, and here's possibly the most interesting quote that came out of the interview, in my opinion, was Shane Lyons' thoughts on Neil Brown. Kind of also confirms a lot of what everyone was thinking, is that he would indeed retain Neil Brown. I know it kind of seems like Neil Brown's going to be retained anyway, but this definitely confirms a lot of people thought about Shane Lyons' opinions on Neil Brown here. Check out this quote. I would want to keep him. I think he checks every box that we're looking for as a head coach. Unfortunately, the big box he needs to check is to win more football games. I believe that's coming in the future. Right now, he's a little bit below 500, but can you look at this and say we can build off this? The answer is yes, it can be built off of. It's a process. It's not going to happen instantaneously, especially some of the players that he inherited and so on. It's going to take a lot longer than what people look at it as 3 or 4 years. Okay, then wanted to add this as well. Shane Lyons asked if he were still athletic director, the final evaluation of Neil Brown this year, what it would be from his side. He says, people don't see behind the scenes, which as athletic director you do. Last week proved a point that he had not lost his team. You're in the locker room. You're around the student athletes. They played very, very hard at a tough place to play. Is it where we need to be? No. we were looking for 7 or 8 wins. Did they meet expectations? No. At the same time, a couple of plays go our way, and we're sitting at 7 or 8 wins, and we're not having this conversation. The first couple years and what Neil Brown took over and the players he had, and throwing COVID in there, and I still looked at this as year 2 for Neil Brown. So there, to me, is the most outstanding comment that came out, from this interview, is that Shane Lyons still looked at this year in 2022, Neil Brown's 4th season, as if it was his 2nd season, and was considering it year 2 for Neil Brown. To me, maybe that's the main reason, behind it all, reading through between the lines and reading the tea leaves a little bit, that he was forced out, in my opinion. That's what stands out to me. And then perhaps the most disparaging comments in regards to Gordon Gee and those involved with removing him as West Virginia athletic director come here next, as he says, "I'm disappointed with the loyalty to some people, and there will be bitterness there," Lyons said, in reference to Gordon Gee. Gee and Alsop called themselves friends. To blindside in this regard, that's not the way I do business. To my knowledge, the board was not the one that made this decision. The decision was made from a campus level and was taken to the board. He concludes his comments by saying, "I'll be a West Virginia fan. I've watched the game Saturday and cheered for them. I have a relationship with these coaches and these student athletes, and I want to see them perform at a very high level. My mark will always be here. I built roughly $200 million worth of facilities. Those things aren't going away. That's only going to help West Virginia in the future. You'll look back and say Shane Lyons left his mark here in a very positive way." So I think extremely interesting interview that comes out with some very critical comments in regards to the West Virginia athletic department. What do you think about those? Do you think it's a little bit of a mess at West Virginia now, or do you think that Shane Lyons is kind of blown it out of proportion, trying to, tell his side of the story, make himself look a little bit better? What are your all's thoughts on this very interesting interview that came out this morning that kind of rocked Mountaineer Nation in a time we were looking for news? I think we got it from a very unexpected source. Most people probably thought this was just going to be kind of a normal, boring interview, but Shane Lyons' first interview, he came out firing with some parting shots for Gordon Gee and those involved in the West Virginia athletic department. And of course, we had to come on here and give our opinion and talk about it and kind of give you guys some of the points in case you hadn't heard what Shane Lyons had to say and just kind of what that may mean for West Virginia moving forward. Who knows? I think Gordon Gee may be coming under a little bit of fire now moving forward in the future. We'll see what happens, but what are your all's thoughts? Let us know down in the comments. We always appreciate the engagement as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. And one way to help us do that is always just hit the like button, give us that little thumbs up. That'll help a lot because that helps this video's performance and helps future videos performances here on the channel. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.